There's a lot to be learned from this race, not necessarily about policy, no other city is like New York City, but a lot about the power of listening. One of the things that Zoran did in this race is he went to voters and asked them, what do you want to see? People are tired of being lectured by men with Rolexes on CNN about affordability in this country. That's the real reason he is resonating right now.
While discussing Zoran Mamdani on CNN's Newsnight, former DNC Vice Chair David Hogg ripped into Scott Jennings for lecturing the audience on affordability while he sat there wearing a Rolex. So Cenk, I know you recently spoke with David Hogg. So what is your initial reaction to what he had to say? I know personally it was very satisfying to see someone read Scott Jennings like that.
Yeah, so look, I get it. Those guys are all rich, but it's a good dig because of the context. And so the context is there's a brother doing a great Gatsby themed party while cutting off SNAP benefits. So Yaz is gonna tell you more about that. And then I wanna talk about how Washington treats you because they do, they really have disdain for you. So let's talk about it.
Well, as New Yorkers are heading to vote today to cast their ballots, hopefully for Zoran Mamdani, Jennings has a strong suspicion that Mamdani is actually going to win, which I think is fair because ever since his victory in the Democratic primary, Zoran Mamdani has been the clear favorite to win. Polls aggregated by the New York Times have Mamdani anywhere from 5 to 25 points ahead of his opponents, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, and Andrew Cuomo, who has entered the race as an independent after losing in the Democratic primary. So in fact, the latest Quinnipiac poll saw Mamdani at 43%, Cuomo at 33%, and Sliwa at 14%. 6% are still undecided, so I'm not sure when they're planning on making a decision. But even though Jennings believes that Mamdani will win, he still has shown a lot of disdain for the fact that he is favored to win, and Hogg was not having any of it.
Look, he's probably going to win. I mean, it's a Democrat town, and they're going to elect a socialist to run the financial capital of the world. I mean, you gave him 300 grand. That's interesting. That's probably the only 300 non-Islamo-Marxist grand that he got. I saw Linda Sarsour today bragging about all the money that's coming from all over the world.
And so I just for their elections in New York.
Look.
And honestly, I think part of the reason he's so powerful is because people are tired of being lectured by men with Rolexes on CNN about affordability in this country. That's the real reason he is resonating right now. Because he has a clear message that actually says, this is what I plan to do. And the party, I don't think this is about going to the left or the right, to be honest with you. Do I agree with Zoran much more than a lot of other Democrats in our party? Certainly, but I think we need to meet voters where they're at in their districts. In some districts, that's going to be more conservative.
But you want a socialist future for your party.
I want a future where everybody has healthcare and people can afford a good life.
All right, we're going to leave it there, everyone. Thank you very much.
Unbelievable. It's only on CNN could a top commentator say something like Mamdani had not Islamo-Marxist dollars, and then the panel just keeps going. I think David Hogg kind of reacted to it if you look at his face, but that is an unbelievable thing to just say on the air and get away with, and nobody says anything. But at the end of the day, Jennings is repeating the same talking points that most conservative and also corporate Democrats have whenever it comes to Zoran Mamdani, including bashing him for being a socialist who will run the financial capital of the world. And they say that as if it's like an ironic thing. And I guess that's better than Donald Trump, though, who corrects people whenever they call Mamdani a socialist, because he's actually a communist, which is much scarier. And Trump wants you to be very scared of people like Zoran Mamdani. But props to David Hogg for laying out exactly what issues New Yorkers actually do care about the most and why Jennings needs to, just shut his butt up. Okay, so according to Partnership for New York City, in regards to affordability, 41.2% of respondents said that their #1 hope for the city in 10 years from now is that it will be more affordable and accessible. 34.4% said that building more affordable housing was the #1 action the city could take to make New York City more affordable. And 26.1% said that lowering or controlling rent and housing costs was the #1 action the city could take to make it more affordable. And like David Hogg said, Mamdani laid out his plans very clearly and met people at their level. So Cenk, a few things stood out to me there. Yeah, the idea that Scott Jennings wanted to bring up the idea that New Yorkers want to elect a socialist to run the financial capital of the world. So dumb. The thing is, that is exactly what is wrong with the Democratic Party. I know Scott Jennings doesn't speak for the Democratic Party, but a lot of Democrats do feel that way. That's why a lot of Democrats still have not endorsed Zoran Mamdani, despite his demonstrated popularity with the people. That's why so many of them have considered endorsing Andrew Cuomo, which is funny because like he lost already. He already lost the primary. New Yorkers already told him that they didn't want him. And then he just said, you know what, I'm gonna keep pushing myself on you. And I know you guys covered in the first hour the fact that a lot of the worst people in the country right now have also gotten behind Andrew Cuomo. And what's interesting is that nobody, whether it's the corporate Dems or the Republicans, whoever is actually thinking about what the people of New York actually want. And something else that I've seen surrounding the narrative with Zoran Mamdani is that it's almost audacious for people to dare to dream for a better future. To dare to think that, if we put somebody like Zoran Mamdani in, obviously if and when he wins, he's going to have a very, very steep uphill climb trying to get anything done, because I imagine he's gonna have everybody trying to get in his way and stop him from doing the things that he actually wants to do for the city. But it's like, how dare you guys even dream? How dare you even try? Because this is the status quo. The best we can do is maintain it. That's the best and final offer. What are your thoughts, Cenk?
Yeah, so don't think that I missed when you said he should shut his butt up. Come on, that was fun. Okay, so two great lines in this segment. And David Hogg's, of course, about the guy with a Rolex on CNN lecturing about affordability. When he said it, I was like, damn. So nice job by David Hogg. So when Scott Jennings hits, he gave him $300,000, Hogg did. That's not David Hogg's money. He runs a PAC called Leaders We Deserve. I interviewed him about that. That's what Yaz was referring to. You can check that out on YouTube. And I'm glad they did. And so for a couple of reasons. One, of course, I want the Israeli lobby to waste $40 million in that race and know that they are not invincible. It'll drive them crazy. And then I'm gonna collect the tears of Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro in my TYT mug. Oh, give me more, give me more, give me more. But mainly I care that he's for change. So I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But first, the Islamo-Marxist. Okay, so it's apparently our job to educate the good folks on television. There is no such thing as an Islamo-Marxist. Marxists are atheists. That is a core part of their beliefs. The Islamists are fundamentalist religious people. So they would never agree with the Marxists, and the Marxists would never agree with them. They have completely different philosophies, and the Marxists have been applied in terrible ways in the past, but overall it's just an economic model. You can get angry at it. I don't particularly agree with it. Not particularly, I don't agree with it at all, but I don't think it's the boogeyman that people are describing. The Islamic fundamentalists, like Jewish fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists, etc., are problematic people. But of course, Zoran Mamdani is not a fundamentalist. He's not an Islamist. He's just Muslim. But since everyone on TV is racist, they just say, oh yeah, Islamist. And then nobody ever corrects him. Now, by the way, Nick Fuentes, bad guy, says bigoted things. And so when he says it about Jewish people, people get outraged, as they should, as they absolutely should. And when it is said about Mamdani by the top Republican contributor on CNN, that he's an Islamist, he's said by other folks all over media and all the politicians, no one cares. There's not a call to cancel Scott Jennings and to make sure that no one ever talks to him, etc. Randy Fine says, let's murder everyone in Gaza. There's no calls for no one to ever speak to Randy Fine, etc. So anyways, pick a lane, guys, pick a lane. So if you're objecting to Zoran Mamdani's socialism, no problem, he actually is a socialist. And by the way, I'm not in DSA and I've never advocated for DSA, that's Democratic Socialists of America. So if I'm not in DSA, he's not a Marxist, but he's a socialist. Is there a difference? There's a massive difference. Norway and Taiwan are socialist in some ways, right? Japan, etc., depending on what you mean by socialist. So Norway is very, very different than Maoist China during the purges, right? So very different. Anyways, But overall, as you guys know, I'm against the status quo, I'm for change. So yeah, I don't agree perfectly with Mamdani's positions, so what? By the way, I agree with some of his positions on childcare, etc. Mainly, I love that he's trying. Give him a chance, let him try. You know, with Cuomo, you're gonna get nothing but the status quo. All the prices are gonna go up. He's not gonna care about you at all, right? All right, so finally, and for everybody on TV, loves the guy who's never gonna bring you any change. Loves the guy who's gonna serve the donor class. They've been attacking Mamdani the entire time and nothing about Cuomo. I mean, Cuomo did a commission on corruption and then shut it down when the commission said, oh, we found out who the main culprit is. It's you. And he's like, that's it, I'm shutting it down immediately. Okay, I mean, on that alone, no one should ever consider voting for him, let alone the grannies and the fannies. And so, but finally, I saw a piece, Ari Melber, good job interviewing Zohran Mamdani. So credit where credit is due. He's an MSNBC anchor, he's a good guy. And Ari had this funny little game he played with him. How quickly can you turn a random topic into a story about affordability in New York? So they played that for a little while, right? Why? Because Mamdani did not run a campaign going, I'm Muslim, I'm socialist, I'm socialist. The other guys did that, right? He ran a campaign that said, hey, I'm gonna look out for you. I deeply care about affordability, which is by far the #1 issue in New York. It actually doesn't take a rocket scientist. You just have to not be corrupt. You just have to not be obsessed with the donor class and serving them. So he did that, and that's why he's leading now, and let's hope he wins and we get some change in New York.
That's so true about the AIPAC dollars. You know, there's no reason or indication that Zohran should or will lose this race. I don't want to jinx anything, but the polling has always been in his favor from the very beginning, and by a lot, right? The fact that Slee was, in the race is kind of funny to me. Even, I know we have to have a Republican, but I just forget about him. I mean, if he wasn't such a crazy character, I think we'd forget that he's a serious Republican candidate for the mayor of New York right now. The fact that Andrew Cuomo is still in the race, I think. When Zohran was on Ari Melber's show, I don't remember exactly what the question was, but it was something about like, why is Zohran Mamdani in the race? It was like a rapid lightning speed round or something. He's like, why are you in the race? And he goes, because I whooped Andrew Cuomo in the primaries. I'm paraphrasing, he was a little bit more eloquent about it than I am now, but it's the truth. And I've never seen somebody just like lose so badly to someone who they have tried everything in the book to demonize this person. They've called him a communist. They say he's not a socialist, he's a communist. They say he's a Islamo-Marxist. They say that he would be happy if there was another 9/11. All these things that they've said about him or implied about him, just none of it has been sticking because the people of New York are still just like, you know what? He's talking about rent control. He's talking about grocery store prices. He's talking about transit. He's talking about childcare. He's talking about all these things that are actually going to impact the people of New York. And the irony of it is that is very America first, right? Right now, we have a president who has been running on this platform of America first, but instead he's saying he's going to attack Venezuela, he's gonna attack Nigeria all of a sudden. You know, like all these things, we're spending so much money on these international endeavors. And in the meantime, they're cutting SNAP benefits for the American people. And I know we're gonna talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. But what Zohran Mamdani is doing is very much people-centric. And from the get-go, they said, are you gonna visit Israel? And he said, no, I'm gonna just be here in New York, taking care of my people. And that's all that these American people are so desperate for these days. And the people who are in power are just not going to listen to them. And I think that's very indicative that's very obvious whenever you listen to any of the Democratic establishment talking about how to govern the American people.
Yep. You know, the last thing that I hope for is that if he gets more Jewish votes than any of the other candidates, which is how he's polling, to use that to shut up everyone in the establishment that is pretending that speaking against Israel or criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic. Because no, you all said that Mamdani was an anti-Semite, even though he never said anything against Jews. If he gets the majority of the Jewish vote, all these talk of anti-Semitism, you'll know, was always a lie. It was never about protecting Jewish Americans. It was always protecting Israel, a foreign government. So that's what everybody in Washington actually serves. So that's another reason why Mamdani is refreshing, because they're like, whoa, that's an American politician not swearing to God that he'll serve a different country. That is so strange and different in America. Isn't that weird that that's weird? Like if a politician in America won't kiss Israel's ass, it's considered shocking. But if you say that Israel controls our government, they're like, how dare you? Well, I mean, you guys are doing it with your actions. You're saying that you find it bewildering anytime any candidate doesn't bow down to Israel. You said it, not me. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.